remember the first time I saw Paris. Not in real life, of course. On TV, some romantic old film my mom used to replay when Dad wasn't around. She'd whisper that someday, when we were free of bills and stress, she'd take me there to us girls. Eiffel Tower at golden hour, croissants, so flaky they'd melt before we chewed. And a love so honest it didn't need translating. But that wasn't the Paris I finally met. I'd met my version of Paris at 2:43 a.m. Standing barefoot in our dark kitchen, clutching a paper statement I wasn't supposed to see, a hotel charge dot for nights Paris, France. On the joint emergency credit card I only ever used once for my root canal last year, and my husband's name Ethan Keller on the digital signature. 3 weeks earlier. Everything was fine. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe that's the lie I kept telling myself while he buried himself in work trips and client dinners. He'd started using words like networking a lot and image. Things we never talked about back when we shared ramen packets in our first apartment, laughing at our own lack of furniture. Back when I thought love meant choosing each other over and over, not just tolerating a shared mortgage. Ethan had changed. He'd traded hoodies for tailored blazers, Spotify playlists for Rolexes, and I stayed behind. Literally. I stayed home, working freelance design jobs, cooking dinners that went cold by the time he strolled in, smelling like hotel cologne. The trip was supposed to be to Chicago, a marketing convention, he said. Days, clients covering it, babe. I'll bring you something nice. He did bring something backstale, macarons in a bag with French writing. Cute branding, right? He smirked. They're doing European-style patisseries now. Chicago, I believed him. I actually believed him, until the credit card statement came in an envelope marked urgent balance review. He never opened those, left all the financial stuff to me, and there it was. The address, the boutique hotel, the restaurant bills, designer charges, perfume. Everything. In my name. I stared at the charges like they might rearrange themselves into something else. I walked into our bedroom. Ethan was snoring gently, one arm draped over his side of the bed. He didn't stir as I stood there, watching the rise and fall of his chest. And in that moment, something shifted. I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't scream. I didn't shake him awake and throw the receipt in his face. No, I walked back into the kitchen, grabbed my laptop, and opened 3 tabs. The hotel in Paris, my bank account, a blank Google Doc. If he wanted to play games, he had no idea who he married. The next morning I made him pancakes, blueberry his favorite. I didn't say a word. I let him kiss me goodbye. Let him wink at me like he hadn't made me feel invisible for 6 months. He even texted later, "You make the best breakfast. You should open a place. Love you." That night I waited until he was asleep again. Then I opened the fake Instagram account I'd quietly created months ago. I'd never had a real reason to use it. Until now. It took less than 30 minutes to find her. She was tagged in a photo, standing on a balcony that looked exactly like the one in the charge from the hotel. Eiffel Tower blurry behind her, holding a champagne flute, wearing my sunglasses. I knew they were mine. I bought them in Milan on our honeymoon, and they'd mysteriously gone missing last winter. The caption? Some secrets are worth flying for. Hashtag Paris Nights. Hashtag Midnight Lover. The account was public. Her name was Jules. I clicked, scrolled more. Hotel rooms, candlelit dinners, sneaky selfies with Ethan's arm in the frame. Just barely cropped out. But I knew that watch. I knew that sleeve. And then I saw it, a shot of her kissing his cheek. He's laughing drunk on her, or the wine, or both. Posted 2 weeks ago. Tagged, Le Jardin du Petit Palais, the day he said he missed the client dinner because he had food poisoning. I should have screamed, I should have thrown something, but instead I saved every photo. I downloaded every receipt, and I smiled, because I wasn't going to lose it all. Not my sanity, not my dignity, and definitely not my money. I was going to burn this slow, and when I was done, there wouldn't be a plane ticket or hotel room left in this world where he could hide. I spent the next few days learning how to smile like nothing had changed. Morning coffee in his travel mug. Done kiss on the cheek when he left for the office. Perfectly timed. Dinner with that fake little laugh he always liked. Oscar-worthy, but behind it all, I was building something. a silent war chest. I started by withdrawing just enough cash every other day from our joint accounts, small enough not to trigger alerts, big enough to matter. I canceled the auto transfer to his gym membership, replaced it with a deposit into a new checking account. I opened in my maiden name. Then I opened an encrypted folder on my laptop. Inside it, I dumped everything. Screenshots of Jules' Instagram posts, credit card records with timestamps, flight confirmations, the digital invoice from the perfume shop on Arrowhead Saint-Honor, charged precisely 10 minutes before he sent me a voice memo saying, "Stuck in traffic, babe. Miss you on Thursday." I waited until he hit the gym. That gave me a clean tour window. I drove across town to meet someone. Ethan had always underestimated my cousin Nate. Nate was a quiet tech guy who lived with 3 monitors and a cat named Syntax. We hadn't seen each other in over a year. But when I slid into the corner booth at the Korean BBQ place he liked and said, "I need a clean digital trail of infidelity," he didn't blink. "I assume you want metadata, timestamps, GPS correlation." I nodded. "I want it court level clean." Nate just smiled. "You came to the right geek." By Saturday morning I had a full breakdown of Ethan's Paris trip. His phone's location pings showed movement between his hotel and her Airbnb. Timestamps aligned with dinner reservations and her photo uploads. Nate even pulled data off a reservation app. Ethan forgot to log out of confirming a couple's massage under the name Mr. and Mrs. Keller. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped. He didn't just cheat, he replaced me down to my name that night. Ethan sat on the couch watching playoff highlights with a beer. I curled up beside him, pretending to scroll through Pinterest, letting my head rest on his shoulder. "Good," he asked. "I'm home." I nodded. "Just thinking about our anniversary." He smiled. "It's next month, right? Damn, time flies." He had no idea I already booked something for just me, and I wasn't planning on coming back. I started planting seeds, little questions, little lies, all designed to shift his attention while I restructured the foundation under his feet. "Hey babe," I said one morning. "Have you seen that white file folder with our tax stuff?" He blinked. "What tax stuff?" I waved my hand like it was nothing. "Never mind. I'll check the garage." There was no folder. I just wanted to see if he flinched. He didn't. Meanwhile, I kept following Jules' Instagram. She didn't post much, but what she did say told me everything. "Missing that Paris view. Hope I see him again soon. Hashtag private thing, private thing." God, she was sloppy then. Like fate wanted me to win. Her page went private. Too late. I had it all already. The final straw came on a rainy Tuesday. Ethan forgot to sign out of his email on our shared desktop. He always did that. I wasn't even looking for anything but a subject line caught my eye. Subject retransferred to Jules. Confirming wire. My heart stopped. I clicked. He was sending her money, $5,000 from one of our joint investment accounts. Labeled as consulting fee. Consulting. She was a barista last year. I didn't cry. I printed it, scanned it into my archive, and texted my lawyer. That night Ethan came home smiling like he'd won the lottery. "Babe," he said, hanging up his coat, "you're seriously glowing this week. I like this energy." I smiled. Because revenge when you play it slow has a beautiful side effect. Peace. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't begging. I wasn't racing to fix a broken marriage. I was watching him dig his own grave. One email, one lie, one stolen dollar at a time. He pulled me in for a kiss. I let him. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me," he said. My stomach flipped. Because soon, he'd learn Nye was also the worst thing that ever happened to him. The next time Ethan mentioned Paris, it was by accident. He was half distracted, scrolling through his phone while I folded laundry. He chuckled to himself, looked up and said, "You ever wonder what it'd be like to actually go there?" Didn't blink. "Where?" "Paris. The real deal, not Epcot." He grinned like a man who hadn't already been. I gave a little laugh. "Maybe someday." He went back to his phone, completely unaware that I already knew exactly which restaurant on Rue Claire served his favorite scallop risotto. Knew what floor he stayed on. Knew what night he used my credit card to buy someone else perfume and a pair of silk gloves. He wasn't careful anymore. And that was the beauty of it. He thought I was still blind. I started assembling the drop folder that same night. I labeled it the evidence party. Inside a full PDF timeline Nate helped me build. Matching charges, photos, GPS data, and reservation confirmations, screenshots of Ethan and Jules. Flirty email thread from when he worked late, copies of the financial transfer labeled as a consulting fee, Jules' LinkedIn profile inactive, and her last 3 tagged Instagram locations and then I added a cherry on top. A video clip. It was from a Ring camera one I'd installed above our garage a month earlier, angled discreetly toward our driveway. In it, you could see Ethan getting into an Uber while carrying a small overnight bag on a date he told me he was in a Zoom conference. The Uber receipt also charged to our shared account, but I didn't send the file, not yet. I wasn't done curating the audience first. I reconnected with Alicia's older sister. We hadn't spoken in months. Ethan made sure of that. He'd always told me she was too dramatic, gossipy, and jealous of our marriage. But the second I texted her, she replied within minutes. We met at a coffee shop near her daughter's school. I came with a thumb drive, just one file. I handed it over with a smile. It's a sneak preview. She plugged it into her laptop and scrolled. Her face changed slowly, piece by piece. At one point she whispered, "Is that way 'tis that?" Her eye nodded, and then she said the line I was waiting for. "He's gonna lose everything." Alicia was my first drop. Then came Beth, his coworker and office assistant. I didn't even have to bait her. Just sent an anonymous package labeled, "Company Reputation Risk, Confidential." A day later, HR at his firm flagged him for a personal conduct review. He came home irritated. "Someone's going through old invoices at work. Can you believe that? Some kind of compliance audit." I smiled into my wine. Weird, that's random. I wanted Ethan to feel the walls slowly tighten around him, not crash down. Squeeze. Quietly, elegantly. Until he couldn't breathe. Then came Jules. Poor, smug Jules. She got her own email. No warning, no sender name. Just a Dropbox link titled, "Ask him about these." I imagined her face as she clicked each file. The receipts. The kiss. The transfer labeled consulting. And most importantly me. A screen recording of our wedding video. The first kiss. The vows. His speech about forever. All sent while he was still logged into my Apple ID, from an old shared iPad that auto-synced everything. That night, Ethan walked into the kitchen like he always did. He was tired, distracted. He kissed me on the cheek. Then he said, "I'm thinking of planning something big for our anniversary this year. Real Paris, maybe." I stared at him, heart thudding. He was doubling down, lying to my face, using my dream as the stage for his performance. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and turned toward him. "That sounds incredible," I said. He grinned. I smiled back. He had no idea that, at that exact moment, his firm was reviewing his travel reimbursements. His side piece was ghosting him, and his sister had forwarded the Dropbox folder to his parents, with a note that read, "Your son is a disgrace. She deserves better." But I wasn't done, because the real damage was yet to begin. Not until the day of our anniversary dinner reservations he'd already made. Using my name for the booking, the same place he once told me he couldn't afford. He had no idea who else had RSVP'd, and I had no intention of showing up alone. The reservation was for 7 p.m. sharp. Ethan made it 2 weeks in advance, right after my hint about wanting to feel special this anniversary. I had deliberately left a tab open to the restaurant's homepage on our shared iPad. He took the bait. Hook, line, and Wagyu beef. La Fontaine was the kind of place people proposed in. Velvet booths, live piano, small portions, with big prices. He'd always said it was too overhyped for his taste. Now he was showing off. Except the performance wasn't for me anymore. I told him I'd meet him there, claimed I had a client call that ran late. "Don't wait up, just go ahead and order a drink. I'll be there by dessert." He texted back a thumbs up emoji. "Already here, candlelit AF. You're gonna love it." I didn't respond, because at 6:58 p.m., Ethan Keller was seated at a white-clothed table for 2, checking his hair in the mirrored panel behind the booth, sipping overpriced bourbon like the king of romance. And at that same moment, 4 other people were arriving at the very same restaurant. My guests of honor, Alicia, His sister, wearing full black and heels that clicked like thunder on the tile bed. His office assistant, who had gone full red lipstick and low bun, clipboard in hand like she was prepping for an HR tribunal. Jules. Yes, her, escorted by a stone-faced young man in a fitted suit, her actual fiancé. Recently returned from overseas. And me, but not for long. We didn't sit down, we didn't even approach the table together. Each one entered separately, timed to arrive within seconds of each other. It started with Beth walking straight up to Ethan's table, smiling too wide. "Mr. Keller," she said loud enough for heads to turn. "Nice to see you outside the office. Care to clarify those fraudulent reimbursements you submitted last quarter?" Ethan looked like someone had slapped him with a fish. He stammered. Looked around for help, then Alicia appeared. "Sweetheart," she said acidly, sliding into the opposite seat without invitation. "Mom and Dad are asking about that little European consulting trip. Want to walk them through the receipts? Or should I?" What the hell is this?" "Dinner," she replied flatly. "Though I must say your taste has improved. This is much better than the hotel bar where you cheated on my sister-in-law." Then came Jules. God. She looked pale. She stopped 3 feet from the table. Her fiancé's hand was on her lower back. "I thought we were private," she said coldly. Ethan stood up too fast, knocking over his glass. "Jules, wait, I can explain this. Isn't I read every word?" she interrupted. "You said you were leaving her, that she was cold, that she didn't understand you." Her voice shook. "But you used her money, Ethan. You used her card to take me to Paris." Ethan's face drained. People had started watching now. Murmurs spread. The motor D hovered awkwardly by the bar, and then finally I stepped forward, not toward him, just close enough that he could see me. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I handed Jules an envelope, neatly sealed with a red sticker tab. "Everything you might need," I said, "in case you want to press charges for fraud, or just for your own closure." I turned to Beth and Alicia. "He lied to all of us." Then I locked eyes with him. "Happy anniversary, Ethan," and walked away. I didn't stay for the chaos that followed. I didn't need to. Beth would finish what I started. Alicia would post about it within the hour. Jules would decide whether to humiliate him further, or walk away with dignity. And Ethan, he'd never be able to tell the story without sweating. He'd never book a dinner reservation without thinking of this night. But I wasn't done with him yet, because while the public humiliation was the first card, the financial collapse, the legal consequences, that would be the next dot, and the timing would be delicious. Ethan didn't come home that night, nor the next. I didn't text him, I didn't call, I didn't ask why his toothbrush was missing, or why one of his suits was gone. He had made his choice. All I did was place the second key to her safety deposit box on the kitchen counter, cut in half, and beneath it a sticky note. "Don't worry, I took only what's mine." By Monday morning, the emails began. The first was from a mutual friend who accidentally heard about the anniversary dinner drama. The second was from his firm's legal counsel. The third was from Ethan himself. Subject line: "We need to talk." I didn't open it. Instead, I logged into our shared investment dashboard. He hadn't checked in weeks. The balance was now just $104.12, because every other cent had been legally moved into a separate trust account, one registered solely under my name, through a family lawyer I hired 3 weeks earlier. Alicia's old college friend, a woman who once went through the same thing with her ex. And when Ethan finally showed up at the house that Thursday looking disheveled and desperate, I was ready. He knocked. I didn't open the door. I let him stand outside, pressing the doorbell over and over, as I sat inside with a fresh cup of green tea, watching him through the PEEPHOLE. Eventually, I cracked the door just enough to speak. "Did you come for your apology, or mine?" I asked softly. He looked stunned. "What?" "I figured you'd want one of us to say sorry. For ruining your fake Paris fantasy. For draining the account. For showing up with proof. Which part upset you the most?" He blinked, mouth open. "Or are you here to tell me she dumped you?" "Too." That one landed hard. He tried to push the door. I blocked it with my foot. "Listen," he started, voice low. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is our money. Our life. You can't just lock me out. Funny, I said. You didn't say that when you charged a $1,200 perfume bottle to our emergency card. That was a gift for Jules, I cut in. He froze. I handed him a small envelope through the door gap. Inside was a copy of the withdrawal notice. Stamped, sealed, legally binding. I moved the money. Every transaction is traceable and documented. You'll see the dates correspond with after I learned about the affair. That makes them fair game. Ethan, he stepped back, color drained. From his face, you can't do this, the house already in my name. He blinked. No, it's joint was joint, I said calmly. Until I used your signature, the one from the birthday card you signed 2 years ago. Remember that cute note? To match it to the sale of your half. Technically you gifted it, but the notary said it held up. You forged. Nope, I matched. He left with nothing that night. No clothes. No shoes. Not even the fancy cologne I bought him last Christmas. The locks had already been changed. His key card to the home alarm system was deactivated. The bank froze the remaining joint card after a fraud report I filed, detailing unauthorized personal use. And as for his reputation, well, that weekend Alicia hosted a women's brunch in the city, the guest of honor. Me. 20 women, mimosas, croissants, laughter. Every woman there had a story like mine, and when I gave a toast, just a short one, it went viral within hours. Here's to the women who were lied to, used, dismissed, and decided to become dangerous instead of bitter. It hit 2.3 million views on TikTok by Monday. Beth commented anonymously, that man's ego is now on clearance. Even Jules liked it, but I wasn't finished yet. Ethan still had one card left, the company pension account. A small stash he thought was safe, untouched, protected. What he didn't know was that his HR department had started auditing every employee expense he filed in the last fiscal year. And a flagged charge at a Paris nightclub, one listed as a client engagement dinner, was under review. That would cost him more than money. It could cost him his job and me. I'd already started shopping for new curtains, because once this house was mine, truly mean I wanted every room to feel different. No trace of him. It was funny, really. For someone who prided himself on being undetectable, Ethan was unraveling. Fast. Like an overstitched button on a cheap suit. One lie yanked the others loose until his whole image started falling apart in front of people who used to believe in him. I didn't even have to push anymore. I just watched with popcorn. The email came from Beth. No subject line. Just a screenshot. Urgent compliance review required, Mr. Keller. We are requesting clarification on multiple expense reports filed under client entertainment during your alleged trip to Chicago. Please provide itemized receipts for the following charges within 48 hours. Underneath it, every Paris charge he tried to write off as marketing. Dinner at L'Amoris. $410 luxury handbag store. $1,850. Perfume boutique, $670 nightclub tab, $982. He had listed it all under the company card. And now the company wanted proof, which didn't exist, because I had already printed those receipts and added them to my evidence folder weeks ago. That Friday, I stopped by Alicia's place. She handed me a flash drive with a grin. Beth said, she didn't technically leak it, she said. Just dropped a few papers on the copier, a little too close to marketing. I plugged it in that night. The footage. Office security cam. Time-stamped. Clean. It showed Ethan pacing in the hallway outside HR. Sweat through his shirt, talking to himself. Trying not to cry. I watched it 3 times. I never smiled so hard in my life. By Monday morning, the whispers had become headlines. At least in his professional circle. 2 clients pulled out of his firm. One posted vaguely on LinkedIn, ethics should never be compromised, even behind the scenes. Another, more direct, we don't work with men who steal from both their marriages and their employers. Ethan showed up at my doorstep again, this time mid-afternoon, more desperate than before. I opened the door and leaned against the frame, sipping my iced coffee. He looked awful, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled like he hadn't slept indoors for days. Can we talk? He asked. I raised an eyebrow. Are you here about the house again? Because your lawyer already sent over a very sad letter. He swallowed. Please. I'm not here to fight. I just need a little help. The firm. I'm suspended, pending investigation. And I tilted my head. They're saying I could be on the hook for embezzlement. Jenna, I sipped my drink. Imagine that. I'm serious. This is my career. I've built everything from the ground up, and they're tearing it down over a few receipts. You know it wasn't that deep, wasn't it? I said calmly. Because those receipts included a 5-star dinner in Paris. On the night you told me you had food poisoning in Chicago. His face dropped. You lied. To your wife, to your company, to your clients. And then you used my card to pay for your fairy tale. I held up a small manila envelope. Inside is a signed notarized statement explaining the Paris trip. A breakdown of every charge, and the forensic analysis from my cousin's firm that places your GPS ping at her Airbnb. It's already been shared with your HR department, but I thought you deserved your own copy. He looked like he wanted to vomit. You're really going to let them ruin me? No, I said gently. You did that. I'm just giving it subtitles. He didn't scream, didn't beg. He just stood there broken, wet-eyed, finally small. I closed the door. Not slammed, just slowly, softly like the end of a song. I no longer needed to dance to, but this wasn't over. Because one final piece remained: the pension, and the very public charity gala the firm was still planning next week. One that Ethan was supposed to be honored at, with cameras and sponsors, and guests and speeches. And guess whose name was now quietly added to the guest list? Mine with a +1. The gala was held at the Marlowe, a high-rise glass venue overlooking the city skyline, where everything glittered just enough to feel expensive, but not enough to hide who didn't belong. Ethan used to say it was aspirational, a place where you only showed your best side. He'd once joked that the building was so clean even regret wouldn't leave fingerprints. Well, tonight, I came to stain the glass. I didn't wear black. I wore red. Deep, striking, deliberate red. Not wine. Not maroon blood. A sleeveless, backless silk gown that fit like a second skin, and flowed like a thread. My hair pinned soft at the sides, just loose enough to whisper, I'm fine without you. My +1. Nate. Yes, that Nate. My genius cousin. Turned forensic data analyst, turned accidental social assassin. Surprisingly tall in a suit. Polite, quiet, deadly with a flash drive. We entered at 6:45 p.m. Just as Ethan took the stage to greet early guests and donors with his usual PR grin. He didn't see me at first, but the crowd did, and that's when the murmurs started. The room was all white florals and metallics. String quartet in the corner. Champagne passed and crystal. Laughter too loud to be real, and then he turned, locked eyes with me from the far end of the ballroom, and just for a moment his smile cracked. Not a full break, just a flicker. Enough for me to see the fear slip through the facade. I tilted my head, raised my glass. Cheers, sweetheart. The event theme was legacy and leadership. Irony, anyone. Ethan was listed as a featured honoree in the program booklet. Someone who had redefined brand ethics and loyalty in a digital age. I nearly choked on my drink. Nate leaned in and whispered, should I flip the breaker in cue dramatic? Lighting, I smiled. No. Let 'em shine. At 7:30 p.m., the speeches began. A dull string of executives congratulating themselves until Ethan took the mic. He looked polished again, hair tamed, smile rehearsed. Tonight's about honoring the leaders who hold integrity at the core of what they build, he said smoothly. I watched the room as he spoke. 2 of his former clients were present. Both had already pulled their accounts. Beth stood near the catering table, arms crossed. Jules wasn't there. She wouldn't come. Not after the engagement imploded and her ex-fiancés ghosted her entirely. But Ethan didn't know that. He still looked for her. In every face he ended his speech with, I've always believed that trust is the foundation of any legacy worth leaving. I nearly laughed, because just then, the giant projector behind him flickered. A glitch. Nope. Nate had timed it perfectly. One slide appeared on screen, a single sentence in plain black text. This is how he used her trust. And below it a photo, not graphic, not cruel, just simple. A cropped shot from Paris. Ethan's hand on Jules' hip, wedding ring visible. Her reflection caught in the mirror laughing, lipstick smudged. The room froze. Ethan turned slowly to face the screen. The microphone picked up the silence. The blood drained from his face. Another slide, this time $8,450. In unauthorized charges, investigated, verified, documented. He spun back toward the crowd. No, I didn't tie. Don't know where this. Beth stepped forward. Company Ethics Board received the full report last week, she said calmly. The same day Jenna withdrew her legal complaint. Because she didn't have to press charges. She already won. Gasps. Whispers. One man coughed. Another left his wine untouched. And Ethan? He stood there, eyes darting, sweating under the stage lights that were once his spotlight. He walked off stage without finishing the speech. I didn't chase him. I didn't even approach. Because the final move wasn't made in front of everyone. It happened privately, at the valet line outside. He was pacing, phone to his ear, panicked. I walked right past him and into the night air. He looked up, our eyes met. I stopped then, softly. You never should have taken her to Paris on my card. But I'm glad you did. Because now, everything has your name on it, including the fall. Nate pulled up in a black town car. I got in. Left Ethan standing on the curb with nothing. Not a career, not a company, not a future he could control, and definitely not me. It had been 3 months since the gala, 3 months since the last time I heard his voice. 3 months since Ethan Keller's name appeared in a press release for a reason he hadn't orchestrated. He tried to quietly resign after the scandal. The board didn't let him. They fired him, publicly, decisively. They wanted distance, apparently. Stealing from your company and your wife in one neat little trip abroad doesn't scream leadership potential. The last I heard, he moved into a short-term rental, 2 towns over. A studio above a vape shop, according to Alicia, who drove by and sent me a blurry photo. The caption just said, "Legacy looks like this now." Meanwhile, I moved back into myself. There's no poetic way to say it. It wasn't Paris or a self-discovery retreat in Bali. It was silent mornings and grocery lists and planting rosemary in my tiny herb box, without wondering if I should cook his favorite dinner. It was finding joy in nothingness. Peace in the absence. Power in saying no to fixing what I never broke. I'd hired a private estate lawyer to finalize the divorce. Clean, sharp, precise. He tried to fight for spousal support, claimed emotional distress and loss of income. The judge reviewed the evidence folder, looked him in the eye, and denied everything. Instead, the court ruled I was entitled to reparative damages due to the use of my credit in fraudulent romantic transactions, combined with breach of marital financial agreements. In the end, he owed me $41,200. He didn't even flinch when they read the ruling, just stared at the table like a man slowly, realizing that sometimes karma doesn't knock. It walks in holding an invoice. Jules disappeared from the narrative entirely. Last I heard, she was bartending somewhere in Phoenix, and not taking e-names anymore, and me. I started a business. It was Nate's idea actually, Receipts and Recovery. A boutique consulting service for women untangling themselves from cheating partners and financial betrayal. We offer digital recovery, credit protection, legal referrals, and for an extra fee, emotional revenge strategy. Not petty, not criminal, just elegant. I even got a call from a podcast producer. They want to turn my story into a mini-series. Funny, isn't it? He took her to Paris, but I took the story. Sometimes I reread his final text. You ruined my life. I smile every time. Because here's the thing no one tells you about betrayal. You don't need to scream. You don't need to slash tires. You don't even need to confront them in person. You just need to survive long enough to send them the bill,